Welcome again to Don the Fossilbuster. So I hope you've seen my first two videos. If you haven't, please look for them. And basically let me say one or two things about them. First of all, I introduced this idea of fossil language mistakes. They're difficult to get rid of. And the story I gave you about my East European friend who said will instead of wheel, this was interesting because we had done that very class a week before this happened. So in fact, he changed it. He was aware of the problem, but it had come back again. Now that's the problem with fossils. So you actually have to do something when you find out what the fossils are. So yeah, what I'm doing in these videos is showing you what these fossils are, helping you identify them. But in fact, you then must do things to get rid of them. They won't just go away like that. Anyway, let's get on. Today's fossils. So one of the biggest fossils I get is students believe I need someone to teach me. I need someone to teach me. No, you don't. You don't actually need anybody to teach you. Well, perhaps beginners, yes. But above beginner level, you don't. You don't need a teacher. You don't need a tutor. A mentor might be helpful, or you could call them a consultant, perhaps. Yes, they will be helpful, but you don't need a teacher. You can do it all yourself. All you need is a mentor to inspire you, to help motivate you, because motivation is essential, not a teacher. Motivation, and you need time, right? And you need the internet. Now, if you've no time, if it's just a hobby, well, you can make progress, but it's going to be very moderate progress. You're not going to be fluent or master the language if it's just a hobby. It depends how much time you put into it. It depends on your motivation. But you also need the internet. But you don't need a teacher. You need a mentor, someone to inspire you. I'll give you an example of this. I use my own story. Here's my story of how I was inspired. Well, a long time ago, in 1980s, I was studying in England, in Manchester at university. And I was a news addict. I was staying in overseas residence, so there were a lot of interesting people from all over the world there. And I said I was a news addict. So I would watch the news in the evenings. And one evening I met this Mexican guy. And we chatted and became friends. Eventually, we became good friends. And so what happened was I became inspired by him just through the friendship. He didn't tell me to do anything. It just happened within me. And I started, and I went and decided I'm interested in this Spanish language, this language he's speaking. It sounds cool. So I went and I did what I knew. How was I taught when I was a child? I went into a bookstore. I bought a primary book on how to learn Spanish for English students. And, it had a little page on greetings, then another one on family, then another one on shopping, the type, and a picture and some words underneath it, and a little bit of grammar, and a few exercises, really boring stuff. And I did that for 45 minutes each day. And then in the evenings, I went up and had a cup of coffee and chatted with my friend. Sometimes we went out for a beer. And he spoke to me in Spanish a lot. And I tried to speak. Of course, I couldn't do much, really. A few phrases here and there. But mostly listening, focusing on my listening. And that became very interesting. So I was inspired by all this. And then at the end of the year, he said, why not come to Mexico and stay with my family? Because nobody, not one person in my family speaks English. And in fact, that's what I did. I went and I stayed with that family. And he wasn't actually there. He stayed in England for a while. So nobody spoke English in that family. And so I was forced to use the language. I was forced to read the newspapers. I was forced to listen to television. I was forced to listen to conversations. And I tried a little bit of speaking as well at the beginning. And of course, then I met his sister's friend, who's now my wife. So yes, of course, she then became my inspiration. She took over as my mentor, as it were, after my initial friend. So there you have all the ingredients of how to become fluent and master the language. You need massive amounts of reading and listening, mostly. And you need inspiration, you need motivation, and you need the internet. Now, actually, I didn't have the internet at that time. So, yeah, there you go now. But it's so much easier now with the internet. You definitely don't need a teacher unless you're a real beginner. So, yeah, where does this idea that I need a teacher come from? It comes from the schools, universities you go to. They brainwash you. They undermine your self-belief in your ability to learn. Trust yourself. You can learn it. These politicians who try to control you in schools and universities, they want you to be dependent on them. They want you to think that you need them to organize things for you, to get a school or a language college or university in order for you to learn. You don't. You do it. You can do it yourself. Another way of thinking about it is, look, how long did it take you to learn your native language to become fluent? Well, research shows it's about 7 years, perhaps. Yeah, by the age of 7, children can produce complex sentences in their own language. And by the age of 20, they can use complex idioms. But in fact, I would argue that it's much later than 20 because I'm still learning idioms in English. I'm still learning them. It's ongoing. Right. So that's the main fossil for today. And yeah, I think I'll just mention one other one, and that'll be enough for today's video. But that is, the other one is that, and this one is very, very strong in most people, they have a feeling that learning is not pleasurable. It must be painful and boring if you're going to learn anything. No, that's not true. Yes, hard work, maybe, but not boring and not painful, certainly. And research shows, in fact, that adults learn a lot more quickly if there is some pleasure involved. So when you're doing your reading practice and your listening practice, which is what you need to do first, then choose things that interest you. On the internet, it's easy. You've got YouTube. If you're interested in cooking, read and listen about cooking on YouTube. Right. If you're interested in sport, do the same in sport on YouTube. Right. So please don't have the idea that reading for pleasure is a waste of time. Sadly, I do meet this attitude in some of my students. Okay, I think that's all for today. You can hear the parrot party behind me is going on. Every day, I'm so lucky here in spring in Adelaide, in Australia. It's just beautiful. But yeah, my parrots are really enjoying themselves. So I hope you are too. And if you've enjoyed this video, please like it and please share it. And I'll be making some more very soon. Please leave your comments on this video. If you want to contact me, you'll find my address in the description below.